Hey everybody, this is Perch, and DC is announcing a new Shazam. In this case, it's Mary Marvel, who's getting promoted up to be the new Shazam. And this is coming as a part of this, the new champion of Shazam, number 1 of 4. It's coming out in February, 4-issue limited series that will basically put, the plot basically goes like this, that Mary Marvel is deputized to be the new champion of Shazam when a talking rabbit is sent to her by Billy Batson, her brother, and current Shazam. So and this is being written by the head writer of She-Ra on Netflix, Josie Campbell. It will have art by Evan Doc Shaner, who's had some experience doing some things with Shazam, and of course was part of that Strange Adventures series as well, and has been doing a lot of work for DC. So kind of a lot of things to unpack. The way that this story is being kind of trotted out is to say this breathes new life into a relatively stale franchise. Now, I take exception with those. I mean, the challenge here is that if I rewind it a little bit, Shazam was a character that really kind of, I think DC would do a little bit with and then forget about for a long time, then do a little bit with and forget about. I'm talking really for the last 30 years or so. Shazam has kind of come and gone. And it's always felt like DC had bigger plans for the character. There was this backup story in Justice League that Jeff Johns was pushing. Then there was a series, of course, that Johns did several years later after the New 52 was over. And there's been like these attempts to kind of get things going with Shazam, but from the outside, it's always appeared like the company doesn't fully want to commit to it. That they're like, well, we like Shazam, we want something going with Shazam, but at the same time, this Shazam family, and maybe it's a little cheesy, and it's like all of the issues that the company has with Superman of, hey, this is it's too old-fashioned. The concepts don't work in modern times. If we're going to do something with Shazam, we should probably make it dark and gritty and have him murder people or stuff like that. And it just doesn't fit with where we're going with today. But that feels like something the comic companies have convinced themselves of, as opposed to what the customers actually want. Because generally speaking, Shazam has not been a top seller. It's not been a 100,000 copy seller of a comic book. But there is a loyal fan base. There is a core group of people that like it. And it is something that I think people, when there is Shazam material out there and you put good talent on it, I think if you're going to have Gary Frank doing some stuff with it, you're going to have Jeff Johns writing it, people pay attention. I think if Jim Lee was to come in and do a one-shot or a 4-issue series, people would pay attention. I think that Doc Shaner is a reasonable enough talent. Kind of his clean artwork style will fit this character. So I think that this will, it'll be fine. Now, mixed up in this that people always bring up whenever you talk about Shazam is this whole who owns a Captain Marvel name, and Marvel has Captain Marvel, and if you've got Mary Marvel, does that confuse people and everything else? I don't know that this is a big deal. If you were pushing the character into the mainstream, maybe this would come up, but for that matter, we had a Shazam movie that actually came out and did relatively well. Again, for DC's films, it did, solid business. If it was a Marvel part of the MCU, it would be on the lower end. But again, DC hasn't built up their universe like Marvel, Disney have. So that's not terribly surprising. And critically, people seem to like it. Shazam seemed to do fairly well. I haven't looked at Rotten Tomatoes recently for where that film is at, but it's a reasonable film that has done fine. So I don't know that anyone terribly cared about, or I put it this way, I don't think movie audiences, the normies, the people who aren't comic readers, I don't think anyone was sitting around confused as to whether it was a Marvel property or DC property, and that how does this merge up with Captain Marvel? Yeah, I'm looking at Rotten Tomatoes right now, and Shazam has 90% critics and 82% audience. That's a success. That's a high, that's a film that works, certainly higher than the Eternals is at right now. Now I have to go check out what the Eternals is at, but it's done fine. Yeah, Eternals is a 47% critical, 80% audience. Oh, there you go. So anyway, the point here is, I don't think there's really a problem with this character, either from this character is too old fashioned, modern audiences just won't understand it or won't appreciate it. When you have a property like Dogman that is getting a lot of kids very excited and the people buy it, and it's a $1 million seller, multi-million-dollar seller, just really popular book. If you're DC or Marvel, then you should hope you have a property that comes out that's maybe a little bit for a younger audience that people can adapt to, that's a little bit more innocent and simple. That would be smart. But regardless of all this, there's been some struggles. So we are getting this series. Now, to this series itself, what's going to get a lot of people's attention is the fact that Josie Campbell is on this. Now, Josie Campbell, who did the Netflix, can we say polarizing? I don't know if that's the right word. So very, people were not, I don't even know where to go with this. There was definitely some very intense opinions about that She-Ra series. My intense opinion was that it looked like it was done for as little money as humanly possible. But Josie Campbell has done a few things. She's involved in this Lois, Jimmy, and Clark, an action film that got kind of panned because Jimmy was colored in this weird kind of purpley hue. But anyway, so she's got this new series out, 4 issues, Shazam. So I think that there will be plenty of people who will certainly comment on that. But the other piece, for 4 issues, some of you are going to hate this comment. How much damage can you possibly do in 4 issues? Of course, you can do quite a bit. But I have a hard time buying, some of this hype. Like the news articles being written, it's like, it's a new Shazam. It's a passing of the torch of a legacy character. It's a huge step up in promotion for Mary Marvel. It's 4 issues. Are we gonna, the problem is now looking back on the last 4 years, like nobody even remembers most of the limited series that have come out. Nobody's paying attention to any of this. So is this a bold new step forward? Is this, we're passing the torch of a legacy character? I'm pretty positive that if we get to say, I don't know, this is 4 issues coming out in February, if we're off in June or July, there's going to be Billy Batson will be flying around as Shazam in the summer anyway, either because they've forgotten about this limited series over a course of a couple months or nobody cares. I think that's the problem here. I wish that there was more to talk about in terms of whether these characters are actually getting replaced, whether there's actually a legacy character being changed or not. But I think the more likely scenario is that it's going to come out, it's going to sell poorly, people are going to kind of forget about it, they'll move on to something else. And if you don't like this move, if you don't like Mary Marvel being Shazam, you might say, hey, that's great. Except it's really not great, because comics should actually mean something. When these series are commissioned and done, they should actually have some importance to it. If nothing has any importance, it doesn't matter whether I don't particularly like the story or not. It's just, it doesn't matter. Like, for example, what's going to happen with Adam Strange? If you read Strange Adventures by Tom King, Adam Strange is dead. He was shot and killed. Does anyone want to take a bet on if we see Adam Strange just pop up again over the next 5 to 10 years? I suspect we will. I don't think this is a lasting change. I think we got a story, and then again, like 5 years from now, some comic's just going to have Adam Strange flying around, and people are going to be like, wait a minute, isn't he dead? And it's like, I don't know. Sure, there was a crisis, and this is one from a different planet that came to our planet, and don't ask questions. All that kind of stuff just kind of reduces the importance of comics. It just makes the whole thing feel a lot less meaningful. And that's when I see this and I read it, because a number of people said, hey, what do you think about this She-Ra writer taking on, ruining Shazam? And I'm like, I don't even think anybody's going to notice it happened, is the problem. And again, I think Doc Shaner is a good artist. I think his style is really good for Shazam, for this kind of clean pencil. It will fit it very nicely. And I do think Mary Marvel is the comedy of all this is you're not really replacing a legacy character. I mean, Mary Marvel is a legacy character as well. So it's like it's a legacy character replacing a legacy character over the course of 4 issues. So I'm not sure exactly even what you're doing here, but cool. I would love it if this I would love it if the argument was, hey, for the next 20 years, Mary Marvel is Shazam. And do we like that? Is that a good thing? How do we feel about that replacement? But it's not the discussion anyone's going to have. So anyway, there's the news. Mary Marvel is your new Shazam. Are you excited? Are you picking up this series? Did you know this was happening? What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe, of course. And thanks for listening.